Rachaad White, is he a dynasty trap? For all the Leonard Fournette truthers, we have a man on the show today that's going to help boost your confidence heading into the 2022 season, starting right now on the Razzball Fantasy Football Podcast. Welcome back, folks, to another episode of the Razzball Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Bobby LaMarco. We have a fantastic guest today to talk some Dynasty rookie rankings. That's right, folks. It's Wednesday. We got Paul Blake joining as well today, but we're excited to have one of our rankers from the site. Make sure you're going to check out those consensus Dynasty rankings. They just were updated earlier this week on Razzball.com. There's a link in the description. So go check out all our great rankers from Fantasy Pros to Fantrax and more. But before you do, make sure you're subscribing to our YouTube channel at Razzball Fantasy. And also make sure you're subscribing to us on TikTok and IG at Razzball Fantasy as well. You can see my beautiful face daily if you want on those accounts. But finally, and most importantly, make sure you go to Razzball.com, folks. We have fantastic articles on the baseball, basketball, hockey, and football, of course, with a bunch of great content coming out all summer long. All right, that's enough. Let's bring in our guests today. First off, my daily, weekly guest for all Dynasty, it's Paul Blake. Make sure you're following the new man on Twitter at Paul Blake PB12. What's going on, Paul?
Not much, man. Same old, Bobby. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm excited about our guest today. He has some hot takes. I kind of gave a little bit of away, so let's bring this man in. He is actually a writer for Fantrax. It's Meng Song from Fantrax. You can follow him at and by the way, I had a hard time finding him, but it's at FFA_MENG. What's going on, Meng?
Hey, what's up, guys? Excited to talk about some Dynasty prospects. I know a lot of people are still kind of getting back into the swing of football. We're just about into July, so some of the Dynasty folks might be just starting to check back in. So I think we got some good info for them.
Oh, absolutely. So today we're kind of doing a little bit of a buy and sell for Dynasty purposes. And we like to start the day off because we want to make sure you guys get the blood flowing. And at the end, we have a nice debate. We won't bury that lead long enough. But let's start with consensus players we are above the consensus rankings. And first, let's start with you, Meng, on Pierre Strong. So actually, you have him 13th. The consensus has him at 33. So you're 20 spots higher. Talk to us about Strong in 2022 and why you think he's a good Dynasty buy.
Yeah, and since this is my first time jumping on with you guys, I always want to mention that rankings are here to be a guide, right? Based on ADP, you absolutely do not need to draft Pierre Strong that high. I'm just that high on him. So even if you do have an early second-round rookie pick this year, you can still trade back, get that value, and grab him in the third round. And the second thing I want to mention is I'm actually working on, shameless plug here, a series of articles on Fantrax about the 2022 version of 2021 breakouts. I just wrote about Derek Carr being this year's Matthew Stafford, and spoiler alert, Pierre Strong is my 2022 Elijah Mitchell. That article is going to be coming out tomorrow, maybe today by the time you're listening to this. And for me, really, it comes down to that kind of athletic profile and how Strong fits in that New England backfield, right? Strong profiles really similarly from an athletic standpoint to Elijah Mitchell. He was the fastest running back in this class, clocked a 4.37 40-yard dash at the combine. At South Dakota State, he showed really good lateral agility, making those decisive cuts, and he was able to play through contact. And with that speed, once he hit the second level, he was gone. So on top of that, one of the better backs at pass protection in this class. And even though Strong didn't catch a ton of balls at South Dakota State, he showed decent hands. I feel like the only reason he's not getting more hype right now is because he landed in that dreaded Patriots backfield, which has historically been a messy committee. But what makes him really interesting are the recent reports out of Patriots OTAs that they've been experimenting with more zone run concepts. He produced a lot of his big gains on those zone run schemes at South Dakota State, and this could explain at least partially why New England drafted him in the fourth round when they already had Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson. So obviously both of those guys are good running backs, but neither has the kind of speed to hit those big home run plays. And that's the strength of Strong's game with that one cut and go type of mentality. So he might not do a whole lot in 2022, maybe more of a long-term dynasty stash, but it's also not outside the realm of possibility that he becomes a league winner, with some whispers that the Patriots might be willing to trade Damian Harris heading into a contract year. And if not, if either Harris or Stevenson were to miss time, I think Strong could absolutely crush it.
So, Paul, now, Mug brings up a really good point when he talks about Pierre Strong, and now we're going to jump to your guy because, by the way, I had to do some digging on this kid. First, I'm a Giants fan, so it's kind of a good strategy for me because I think it's Joshua or Jashawn Corbin. What's his?
Yeah,
I don't even know how to say his name. That's how low he is on our rankings. Right now, today, you have him at 35. He is an undrafted rookie free agent from the New York Giants running back position. Consensus, 5 of the 8 sites don't even have him ranked, and he currently ranks 62. I had to go dig it. So talk to us about this kid. Why is he in your top 36?
Well, for starters, he had a long way to actually come down for me. The pre-draft rankings that I did, I had him as the 2nd overall running back. I had him as the 5th overall offensive rookie player for fantasy leagues going into the draft. So that speaks volumes about what I think about his talent. Obviously, I was wrong on that. He went undrafted, fell all the way to the Giants, and fell all the way out of the draft, which shocked me, to say the least. But he's 6 foot tall, 220 pounds. He's got the type of build that you want to have for an NFL running back. He's a thick, powerful runner with a low center of gravity. Call him Thunder Thighs, Quadzilla, Flank Steak, whatever you want to call him. This dude's got some thick thighs, and he's built the way you want a running back built. He's even a little light on top, which I think he could add some more strength there and even become more of a powerful runner. He attacks the line of scrimmage with ferocity. This guy has little hesitation when he hits that hole, and he hits it with bad intentions. Okay, he bursts through tackles. He's strong enough to run through the tacklers, but he's also fast enough to get away from them. He's got a really strong stiff arm. You see him breaking tackles and running long runs against teams like Notre Dame, Louisville, some of the tougher teams that Florida State had to face. And Florida State was, let's not sugarcoat it, they were hot garbage last year. They're a bad team right now. It's sad to say, if you remember from the 90s, that they've fallen this far, but he was the prime attraction. He transferred there from Texas A&M a couple of years prior. He was a big-time recruit. I think it just took him a little bit of time to find his footing there. Now, as far as what he can do with those skills and if he'll get a shot in New York, I do think he'll get a little bit of a run. So he's got to beat the killer bees to get there. You know, he's got to get through Barkley, got to get through Breida, got to get through Brightwell. Brightwell's got his issues.
Sorry to cut you off. You might be the only person to ever call those 3 guys the killer bees. But go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
The tame bees, I guess.
All right, there you go.
But yeah, I guess so. Brightwell has some issues with fumbling. He did in college. Apparently, he has in practice. I think that could bury him on the depth chart. Obviously, coaches don't like that. I'm sure Brian Dable will give him a fresh look. But if you fumble the ball, you don't have a whole lot of run with coaches. So he's got that issue he's got to work through. So he's got a good shot at beating out Brightwell, I think. Then you got to get through Breida, who is obviously familiar with Dable's offense there from playing in Buffalo. But Breida's got his own injury issues, and Breida's kind of a one-trick pony. You know, he's kind of that home run hitter, that fast guy, not necessarily the big between the tackle runner that Jashawn Corbin can be. And then, of course, you have Saquon Barkley, and I don't know, has he ever been hurt before? Has he ever missed any games?
No.
Don't know if that's ever happened to him or not. But I do think, all this to say, I think there is an avenue for Jashawn Corbin to get to the field. And that's really all it's going to take, I think, for this guy. I think he hits the ground running if he gets a shot, and he does well. And, you know, for me, I've got him ranked in the 30s, so that's, you know, probably an early to mid 3rd round pick for you. And I think that's where you take a shot on these high upside running backs that have to have a few things fall right for them to get a shot. But if you like their talent and you think they can make something happen, I think that's a good spot to take them.
All right, let's jump down to some guys we're a little bit lower on in consensus. And Mung, let's start with you. Your take is kind of high. I like it. Rachaad White, as a Leonard truther myself, this kind of tickled me a little bit, and I'm very happy about it. You have him currently ranked Rachaad White at 29th. Consensus is at 17. So why are you fading White in 2022?
Yeah, well, first, just from a draft profile perspective, I think White is a good all-around back. I mean, as a runner, he's got good vision. I think he can be a mismatch against linebackers as a receiver out of the backfield. And that's what people are really more excited about White for, right? is that he could take some of that third down work from Leonard Fournette. But my issues with him are twofold, right? One, White really only showed one good season at Arizona State after kind of bouncing around. And then two, from an athletic standpoint, he's not particularly special. So really, I think his draft capital in rookie drafts right now, his ADP is inflated simply because he's on the Bucs, right? A lot of people got excited as soon as he landed in Tampa Bay because everybody wants those pieces in a Brady-led offense. But the problem is, like you said, you're a Leonard Fournette guy. I love him in redraft in 2022, and he's still the guy right now in Tampa Bay. They've got a veteran there, Giovanni Bernard, who's pretty forgotten about, but he looks to be healthy heading into this season. And one of the biggest things with a 45-year-old Tom Brady is that they need guys who are trusted in pass protection for him, right? One big hit on Brady, and that could be it for the season. So I really think that we're going to see still a lot of Fournette on third downs, maybe a little bit of Bernard sprinkled in. So when you're looking at White, you've got a sort of athletic handcuff for Fournette. Even if Fournette were to miss time, I don't know that I would project White to be a workhorse in his stead. And then if we're talking about long-term, right, Brady came out of retirement, which was shocking to everyone. And I don't know that he's not going to go right back into retirement after this season. So now you're talking about just a good all-around prospect, but without any elite traits, playing in a Bucs offense long-term with Kyle Trask or whoever it's going to be. So I think he's a useful PPR flex or RB2 if Fournette were to miss time this season, but I don't think that's enough to be taken quite this high in rookie drafts. And I think he's one of those maybe handcuffs that you take in the third round of rookie drafts.
Now, Paul, you're another one on running backs. Actually, James Cook, a popular borderline first-round pick in drafts right now. You have him at 23. Consensus has him at 12. Why do you hate James Cook? Is it Devin Singletary? Talk to us a little bit the situation.
Well, I obviously, like all these guys, I don't necessarily hate him. I do think he does some things well. I just think that the things that he does well are kind of redundancies on the Buffalo Bills right now. Just to kind of break things down, obviously Cook carried by the last name. Everyone knows Dalvin Cook. This is his younger brother, 5-star recruit. But, I mean, he's a 5-star recruit. Everyone wanted him. He goes to Georgia, and he sits on the bench. And he kind of gets in a little bit a few times here and there, but he never becomes the main guy. Granted, he's behind DeAndre Swift. He's behind Zamir White. But he's going to have competition in the NFL as well. 5'11", 195 pounds, so it's not an ideal size. I don't see him going in between the tackles. I don't see him battling it out like Jayshon Corbin does in between those tackles and making some hay there. He's got to compete, like we said, so he's got to compete with Devin Singletary, who does a lot of the same things. Really good receiver out of the backfield. I wish Singletary would do more with the catches that he gets out of the backfield, but he is there for them. He's also got to compete with Isaiah McKenzie, who's another very similar athlete. Now, McKenzie's obviously wide receiver, but he does a lot of those end arounds. He does a lot of those, sweeps. So Cook's got to battle it out with those guys. I think kind of overall with the last few guys I've talked about that I've kind of been a little bit lower on. It seems like we're waiting for these guys like Malik Willis. Yeah, sure, probably not this year, but maybe next year if Ryan Tannehill's gone. I was lower on Malik Willis. Sky Moore was another one, maybe not this year, but next year everything opens up for the Chiefs, and maybe it'll happen next year. I have troubles just waiting on that for next year because next year, you got a whole new class of free agents. You got a whole new class of rookies. Who's to say you don't draft another player? Who's to say you don't sign another player? And then the roster math looks entirely different than it does at this moment. So if you're counting on, if you're using an early round pick or if you're using a first round pick on a player that you don't even think this is their year for in a rookie draft, I'm just not comfortable doing that. If you want to do that, that's fine. But to me, when they sit on the bench, they don't get any value. This isn't like fantasy baseball where they can tear up a minor leagues and all of a sudden everyone gets excited and maybe you can trade them off for another veteran. That doesn't happen. If they're not on the field, their value tanks. And I'm not saying that's going to happen to James Cook. I do like him as he's much more explosive than Devin Singletary. But I just don't want to wait on it that high. Now, if I can get him at 23, if I can get him in the second round, absolutely. Yeah, that's when I want to take that guy who next year could pop and be amazing. But right now, we got a part-time player who doesn't have a clear path to playing time. I'm not taking him in the first round.
All right, gentlemen, we now have a third section 3, which is going to be our debate section. Now, everyone's got their 2 players in. You got loosened up a little, but I need you guys to get aggressive. I need to see a little bit of a heated debate here as we talk about a kind of a random player, but I found out he's probably one of the guys you two personally are biggest difference on, and it's actually Khalil Shakir, the Bills wide receiver, 5th rounder. Meng, you have him at 23. Paul Blake has him at 52, okay? So at least, I think Meng has he's in the ballpark of consensus at 31. Paul Blake, you're all the way at 52. You're so far away, I'm actually going to make you go second because that's how ridiculous that rating is right now. So, Meng, give us your 2 cents on Shakir and let us know if you think he should be drafted in that top 30 range.
Yeah, and I actually just wrote about Shakir as a great deep sleeper in best ball draft, so you can find that over at RotoViz. But clearly, I've been talking about him a lot on Twitter in articles, so I'm pretty high on him. He's a good athlete with enough speed to have won on some deep balls in college, but where Shakir really excels is on those shorter underneath routes. And I don't think he's an elite prospect by any means, but I'm willing to take a shot on him in the late second round of rookie drafts because he profiles as a strong slot receiver at the NFL level. And his skill set fits exactly what the Bills need right now, right? The last couple of seasons, Cole Beasley was their dedicated slot guy, and Beasley averaged a 20% target share in both 2020 and 2021. And that allowed him to be the PPR wide receiver 21 in 2020. He had 4 weekly wide receiver 1 finishes. And while Beasley kind of fell off last season, and that's probably a big reason why Buffalo did not re-sign him, he still had 3 wide receiver 1 finishes last year. And now, of course, they have Jameson Crowder there. They signed him this offseason. But Crowder has missed a ton of time throughout his career and in recent seasons with a lot of soft tissue injuries. He logged a career-high 78 receptions in his first year with the Jets back in 2019. But since then, Crowder's missed 9 total games over the last 2 seasons in New York. There's a fair chance that Shakir is going to get a shot at the starting slot role in Buffalo at some point as soon as this year. And based on RotoViz's Prospect Workout Explorer tool, Shakir comped most similarly to Sky Moore in this class. Now, obviously, Moore was a second-round NFL pick versus Shakir in the 5th, but even so, given how excited most people are for Mahomes' potential new slot receiver, I feel like we should be keeping a lot closer eye on potentially Josh Allen's new slot receiver at some point this year. Obviously, Shakir still has a ways to go, as any rookie wide receiver does, but it's encouraging that reports out of OTAs and rookie minicamp are that he's shown well with good footwork, adjustments to off-target passes, and really, we just want to invest in good NFL offenses. This is not the strongest rookie class. And to me, Shakir is by far the cheapest investment if you want in on that Bills offense.
Now, Paul, you got a lot of ground to make up because I kind of agree. So let's see what you got here. I always like to give you a chance. So talk to me about Khalil, why he's at 52.
All right. Well, so when I was doing my rankings, Khalil was actually battling a leg injury that was keeping him out of OTAs from what I was reading. I was also reading that he had multiple drops in OTAs. So I do agree with Meng on his ability. I think that his skill set is as a slot receiver. I think that's what he's built to do. He's a phenomenal route runner. He can get open underneath. I don't know if he'll beat people deep. I mean, this isn't Boise State anymore. We actually play against real football teams in the NFL. So there is much more difficult competition than he's ever faced. And like you said, it's an important role. That slot role is an important role for the Buffalo Bills. Cole Beasley, not the type of guy I'd want to grab a beer with, but he is a really good football player, so got to tip the cap to him on that one. I do think Jameson Crowder is going to have a resurgence there in Buffalo. I think he's going to be pretty good. Health is going to be a concern. It always is a concern with that guy. But I do think he's a little bit better route runner right now, a little bit better athlete right now. But there's also other players I like with the Buffalo Bills. I like Isaiah Mckenzie. I mentioned him as far as taking handoffs. I think he's got better skills than both Jameson Crowder and Khalil Shakir. It's just he doesn't have the route running props. He just doesn't have those. So he's got to learn how to do that. Maybe he does. Maybe he gets better. He's been a hard worker under Buffalo after being kind of having some character concerns coming out of Georgia. Also, there's another player I really like on Buffalo. I was hoping he could make a difference here, but it's last year's 6th-round pick, Marquez Stevenson. This guy's got speed to burn. Now, he can get past NFL defenders because this guy can really run, but he may be more relegated as like a punt returner, kick returner type guy. So I agree with a lot of what Meng had to say. To me, he's kind of Shakir's another guy who's kind of wait until next year. And I've already mentioned for the guys that are waiting until next year, I'm a little bit more lukewarm on those guys. But Meng's maybe got me coming around a little bit. Maybe he'll get bumped a little bit further up.
Well, it sounds like we all agree then that Meng won this one. So that's it, folks. That's pretty much all we got for today. We do really appreciate Meng Song from Fantrax. Make sure you go give him a follow at FFA_MENG on Twitter, and also go check out his stuff on Fantrax. Before we go, Meng, just give the people some information about you. What's the latest articles you got coming out? Anywhere they can find your content, that'd be great.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you already kind of hit on the big ones. I am also at FFA_MENG on TikTok as well. I just started getting into the TikTok game. So for those of you who might not have, 5 minutes to read an entire article, I do have some short 30-second videos coming up on here that will give you the most actionable advice from my articles. But yeah, like I said, I'm really excited. My current series of articles that I'm working on right now is finding this year's version of players who really did well last year, right? So I'm excited about Derek Carr as potentially this year's Matthew Stafford, making that leap in touchdown efficiency. And like I said, I've got that article coming out about Pierre Strong. So you guys already got kind of a sneak preview there about why I'm pretty high on him. And, I've been drafting Strong and Shakir, in the last round of a lot of best ball drafts for those of you who play that format, just because, like Paul said, to his point, a lot of these rookies probably aren't going to make a whole lot of contributions this year, right? But at the same time, I think the draft capital in the 3rd round is pretty low on guys like Strong and Shakir in rookie drafts where, they don't necessarily have to pay off their cost eventually. So again, that's my argument for them. But yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. This was a lot of fun.
We already gave the man the W, but he wanted to bury him more, Bob, like on the debate. That's why this man will be back on the show again soon. We do appreciate you. Once again, this is the Razzball Fantasy Football Podcast on the Razzball Fantasy YouTube channel. Make sure you go subscribe. Make sure you go like and comment, and also hit that bell to make sure you get those notifications. Make sure you follow us on TikTok and IG at Razzball Fantasy, and make sure you always go to razzball.com for all the latest on basketball, baseball, hockey, and football. Once again, I'm your host, Bobby LaMarco. That man's Paul Blake. Thank you, Meng Song, again. We're out of here.